Welcome to Looking Within, a podcast for the spiritual explorer in each of us. I'm Julie. I love to explore the inner life using contemplative practices, and I love to help others to do the same. In our time together, I hope you gain a sense of hope, meaning, joy, and love. As a Christian spiritual explorer, I hope to offer some thoughts to help you see God's presence and activity in ever-expanding ways. As you listen, ponder, and experience the divine, feel free to use the spiritual perspective you are most comfortable with in our practice today. Now, let's begin. Transition. We see it happen and unfold as we watch children, youth, and adults develop and change. We spot transition in relationships, jobs, and in places where we live. Everywhere we look, in every phase of our lives, there's transition. And if transition is so prevalent in our journey, then it's important that we give it some conscious attention and consideration. Perhaps it will help us to examine the component parts of transition so we can better understand this important and often challenging part of our lives. Let's do that today as we begin a multi-part series centered around transition, with today's episode entitled, Transition, Are You Willing to Go Deeper? I frequently read books and articles, listen to talks, and periodically attend retreats and workshops about the spiritual journey. You might do some of this as well. And these ways of learning and reflecting on their journey are so valuable. But in addition to learning from others, when it comes down to it, our own life is the ideal material to study. Our own journey, with its ups and downs and everything in between, reveals our most helpful lessons. To guide our conversation today, imagine, if you will, the image of an inverted, bell-shaped curve. At the top left, mentally place the word endings. At the top right, the word beginnings, and down at the bottom of the inverted bell, place the word uncertainty. This image is called the transition curve, written about by various authors, applied to various situations, and employing slightly different words and markers depending on the context of use. For our purposes, the transition curve shows us the pattern that we go through in all transitions. Life is full of transitions. Maybe more accurately, life is transition. And it's in these times of transition that we are most open to God's friendship and help. Regarding the inverted bell-shaped transition curve, once we understand this curve or recurring cycle, we are better able to navigate through the outer and inner journey of life. The transition curve reveals the inner work that mirrors outer experiences. Truly, your life is your spiritual practice. The events of your life are how God enters your life, creating the wonderful opportunity for a living relationship with the divine. Having named the various parts of the transition curve a few minutes ago, for today, let's focus on an even more basic question that seems necessary to ask before even considering how the transition curve can help us navigate change. It's the title of today's episode, Are You Willing to Go Deeper? The answer we give to this question determines the usefulness for us of the transition curve. You see, we can choose to skirt across the top opening of the curve, staying on the surface of our life situations, dealing in the realm of purely informational, philosophical, or geographical answers, and never touching any deeper inner work related to emotions, thoughts, feelings, hopes, or dreams. It's very easy and less painful to address just the facts about a change or transition, and then to move on without any inner reflection. But if we stay just on the surface of things, we potentially end up dragging unresolved emotions and unfinished business with us to the next change or transition. And then, as we carry an ever-enlarging and burdensome sack of never-attended-to emotions and baggage, we face an overwhelming and scary life, a scary death, and a cluttered inner existence marked by a lack of joy, lightness, and the abundant life that can be ours when we walk closely with God and let God help us to deal with things at this deeper level. Frankly, by never delving into the deeper and more felt areas of life, we miss out on opportunities to experience God's friendship and help, which is always on the ready for us, but especially in those times of greatest need. In our moments of quiet now, let's think about this. In this quiet space and time, I'd invite you to gently close your eyes. I'll sound the Tibetan singing bowl, which will call you to look within. As you're listening to the bowl's reverberations, take 3 deep breaths. Then let your breathing return to normal whenever you'd like. Hear the sound of the bowl now. Let it center you. Let it remind you that God is here with you. Picture a time of transition that currently exists in your life. Then, holding a mental image of the inverted, bell-shaped transition curve, clearly see the dotted line that spans the top opening of the curve. While in the midst of a transition now, are you willing to drop below the dotted line, going deeper than the superficial facts and information about your transition? Can you acknowledge and name the thoughts, feelings, emotions, hopes, and dreams, or the seeming destruction of those, that you might be feeling? See how that feels to go deeper. See how it feels to discover God there. I'll be back with you in about 3 minutes. I'd invite you now to take a few deep breaths in and out. In and out. Let these breaths fill you with strength and energy. Hear me sound the Tibetan singing bowl, and as the sound of the bowl reverberates and slowly dies away, you can gently open your eyes, remaining still for a moment longer. Did you know that we're in good company when it comes to the ups and downs of traveling on the transition curve? There are numerous examples in the Bible of those who dared to name and acknowledge their endings, beginnings, and uncertainties, and we'll talk more specifically about these three next time. Think of the life stories in the Old Testament of Moses, David, Job, Jonah, and Joseph, and in the New Testament, Peter, Paul, the disciples, Mary, and of course, Jesus. Think about modern-day people you know or have read about who approach their life journey with authenticity and vulnerability. All of those we admire in this area have dared to go deeper than a superficial nod of the head to their thoughts, feelings, and emotions regarding change and transition. They've consciously wrestled with their struggles, had frank conversations with God and others, and in the process have learned the steps of the dance with God. And our relationship with God really is a dance. It's not mere observation and factual commentary. It's moving and adjusting and stumbling awkwardly at first. But then, with time, your willingness to go deeper into inner work leads to a deepening relationship with the divine. The dance with God becomes more intuitive, more flowing, more beautiful. And when you drop below the dotted line, engaging in your inner work, you connect with your spiritual life, and you engage in your chance to go deeper. And wonder of wonders, this is where you find God. Thank you for making time for your inner self today. Whatever you've discovered and experienced, carry that with you in the coming days. You can find more episodes at our website, Gloria-Day, that's DEI.com/lookingwithinpodcast, or subscribe through your favorite podcast app. We'll see you next time.